Before the first empires rose and before the first words were etched into stone, our world was already ancient, its surface marked by mysteries modern science still struggles to explain. Across continents, colossal megaliths stand like silent witnesses to a forgotten age. Stones weighing hundreds of tons were lifted, carved, and aligned with celestial precision long before recorded history began. Some believe these builders possessed lost technologies. Others claim they carried wisdom granted by the stars. But perhaps the truth lies deeper, buried beneath the dust of time, waiting for the day humanity dares to remember what it was never meant to forget. High above the sun-scorched deserts of the American Southwest, entire cities cling to the faces of towering cliffs, homes carved from stone, suspended between earth and sky. For more than 7 centuries, they have endured the silence of time, watching the rise and fall of civilizations below. These are the ancestral Puebloan cliff dwellings, the breathtaking legacy of a people who achieved the impossible. Built without metal tools or wheels, these multi-story sanctuaries seem to defy both gravity and logic, perfect in symmetry, aligned with the sun and protected by height. Yet their greatest mystery is not how they were built, but why their builders vanished. One day, life in these stone cities simply stopped. Fires went cold, doors were sealed, and an entire culture disappeared, leaving behind only silent walls and echoes of a story the desert still refuses to tell. Across regions like Mesa Verde in Colorado, Canyon de Chelly in Arizona, and Bandelier in New Mexico, clusters of dwellings lie tucked within vertical cliffs, remarkably preserved despite nearly 800 years of wind and erosion. These were not mere shelters, they were intricate communities, complete with hundreds of rooms, storage chambers, courtyards, and underground ceremonial halls called kivas. The most famous, Cliff Palace, contains over 150 rooms and 23 kivas. Hidden within a vast natural alcove, nearly 40 meters high, constructed from sandstone, clay, and wooden beams, the walls were fitted with such precision that no mortar was needed. Windows and ventilation shafts were carefully placed to align with the rising sun, while stairways and carved footholds connected the settlement's many levels. Even today, their design demonstrates an understanding of architecture, airflow, and solar movement that seems centuries ahead of its time. Why, then, did the ancestral Puebloans build their homes in such perilous places? Archaeologists have long debated the reason. Some believe the cliffs offered protection from rival tribes and natural defenses against the harsh desert environment. Others suggest a spiritual motive, that these lofty dwellings brought the people closer to their ancestors, the sky and the divine. Inside the kivas, spiral carvings and solar motifs reveal that the ancestral Puebloans were keen astronomers. They tracked the movement of the sun and moon using light and shadow to mark solstices and equinoxes. From such heights, they lived not just in refuge, but in harmony with the cosmos, balancing survival with spiritual purpose. Beyond their architecture, they were brilliant engineers and farmers. In the arid plateaus of the Southwest, they built intricate irrigation systems to channel spring water toward their fields, transforming desert landscapes into fertile gardens. They cultivated the three sisters, corn, beans, and squash, symbols of life and balance, storing surplus harvests in sealed granaries to survive years of drought. Their tools, crafted from stone, bone and wood, display a mastery of precision and function. The very layout of their dwellings reveals a deep understanding of solar heat and aerodynamics. In summer, the overhanging cliffs shaded the rooms, keeping them cool. In winter, the low sun's rays slipped through narrow openings, providing warmth. Every detail reflects a civilization not merely surviving, but thriving, adapting to its world with intelligence, artistry, and reverence. And yet, after centuries of innovation and peace, they disappeared. Why did they leave their skybound homes? Was it drought, conflict, or something far more mysterious? No one knows for certain. The cliffs remain, haunting, silent and eternal, guarding the last whispers of a people who once lived between heaven and earth. The story of the ancestral Puebloans, or Anasazi, is one of breathtaking ingenuity, an enduring testament to the adaptability of humankind in an unforgiving landscape, where knowledge and instinct blended seamlessly in the struggle to survive. Inside their sacred cliffside chambers, archaeologists have uncovered spiral carvings, humanoid figures with large heads and elongated limbs, and images resembling stars, rays of light, and winged beings. Modern researchers often interpret these symbols as depictions of spiritual journeys, passages between worlds, or records of astronomical events. Yet for those drawn to the mysteries of the past, they evoke something even more enigmatic: possible encounters with celestial visitors, sky beings whom the Anasazi may have regarded as divine. Whatever their true meaning, one thing is certain: the Anasazi lived with a profound sense of unity between the earth, the heavens, and themselves. Their Kiva rituals, conducted in circular underground chambers, symbolized humanity's emergence from the womb of the Earth Mother. To them, nature, ancestry, and the cosmos were not separate forces, but threads woven into a single fabric of existence. Then, around 1275 to 1300 AD, everything changed. Archaeologists found that every major Anasazi settlement, from Mesa Verde to Chaco Canyon, was abruptly abandoned. There were no signs of war, no widespread destruction, no hurried burials. It was as if the people had simply packed their belongings and vanished into the desert. At Mesa Verde, cooking pots, tools, and stored grain were left untouched, as though daily life had ended mid-motion. The stillness was absolute, a civilization gone without farewell. Why would such a thriving society, masters of agriculture, astronomy, and architecture, disappear within a few short decades? The question has haunted scholars for generations. Geological and environmental studies point to a devastating drought that struck the southwest around 1275 AD, lasting nearly 30 years. Rivers dried up, fertile soil cracked, and once thriving cornfields turned to dust. When survival became impossible, the Anasazi may have been forced to abandon their cliffside homes in search of more hospitable lands. But drought alone cannot explain the full story. Excavations at smaller sites reveal evidence of burned dwellings, shattered walls, and violent encounters, signs that resource scarcity may have sparked conflict between once cooperative communities. Others believe that the Anasazi's disappearance was not purely physical but spiritual. According to some interpretations, their cosmology viewed time as cyclical. When one world ended, another began. Their Kiva ceremonies and solar rituals may have marked not only the passage of seasons, but the close of an age, a sacred exodus rather than a collapse. Some archaeologists suggest that they migrated south, merging with the ancestors of today's Pueblo peoples, the Hopi, Zuni, and others who still preserve fragments of the Anasazi's traditions. Their architectural styles, and their reverence for balance between humanity and nature. Most experts, however, agree that no single cause, drought, conflict, or faith, can explain what happened. It was likely a convergence of forces: environmental catastrophe, social strain, and a loss of spiritual coherence that together led to the quiet unraveling of a once great civilization. Their disappearance remains one of North America's greatest enigmas. The Anasazi left no written records, no farewell inscriptions, only the silence of stone. Their spiral carvings, etched into walls high above the desert floor, endure as symbols of eternity, perhaps a final message to the future. Today, their dwellings still cling to the cliffs, motionless in the wind. Their empty rooms, breathing the memory of lives once full of light. To walk among them is to enter a world suspended in time, where the whispers of the past seem to drift through the sandstone halls. In 1978, UNESCO declared Mesa Verde and other Anasazi sites World Heritage Landmarks, not merely for their archaeological significance, but as living monuments to human resilience and spiritual vision, built without metal, mortar, or wheels. These structures have withstood centuries of storms and earthquakes, testaments to the ingenuity and devotion of their creators. The Anasazi may have vanished, but their legacy endures in the ceremonies, art, and architecture of the modern Pueblo peoples, and in the reverence they inspired for the land that once sustained them. Perhaps their greatest gift to us is not in the stones they raised, but in the silence they left behind, a timeless reminder that even the most brilliant civilizations are but fleeting chapters in Earth's eternal story. Far to the west, in the heart of Nevada's desolate desert, another mystery awaits, Lovelock Cave, a hollow wound in the red earth where time and legend converge. And the silence is said to conceal something far older and far stranger than history itself. For centuries, the desert wind has howled through the dark mouth of Lovelock Cave, carrying whispers of something ancient and unsettling buried within. Then just over a century ago, two miners searching for bat guano stumbled upon a discovery that defied all reason. The skeletal remains of enormous human-like beings, their hair still glowing a deep copper red after thousands of years. What began as a routine dig soon became one of the most haunting archaeological enigmas in North America. Who were these towering figures? Why did they possess fiery red hair, a trait unknown among native tribes? And why were their bones found buried in thick layers of ash, as if a whole people had been burned out of existence? Between myth and forbidden history, the answers remain hidden beneath the sands of Lovelock, a cave that still guards its ancient secret. According to the Paiute people, who have lived in the region for generations, there once existed a race of red-haired giants known as the Siteka, meaning the eaters of flesh. These beings were said to be immense in stature, fierce in nature, and terrifying in appetite. Legends describe long wars between the Paiutes and the Siteka, creatures strong enough to lift a man with one hand who preyed upon their enemies and even their own. In the end, the tribes united and trapped the giants inside a cave, setting it ablaze until none survived. Centuries later, in 1911, miners digging into that same cave unearthed what appeared to be the charred bones and relics of a long-lost people. As they dug deeper, they found woven baskets, massive bows and arrows, seashells from distant coasts, and textiles of remarkable craftsmanship. When archaeologists from the University of California arrived, they catalogued over 10,000 artifacts, including two remarkably preserved mummies, one male, one female, both standing over 2 meters tall, with reddish-brown hair still attached to their skulls. The red hair soon became the most astonishing and controversial feature of the discovery. In Nevada's dry, oxygen-starved desert, organic matter should have turned to dust long ago, yet the hair remained vibrant, almost luminous. Early witnesses described it as fire turned to silk, a shade too vivid to belong to any known indigenous group. Scientists tried to explain it as the result of melanin oxidation, a process that can lighten dark hair after death. But microscopic analysis told another story. The strands bore genetic traits consistent with naturally red hair of European-type pigmentation, a finding impossible to reconcile with what was known of prehistoric North American populations. This contradiction transformed the hair into something more than a curiosity. It became a biological enigma, suggesting the presence of a people outside any known lineage. The artifacts deepened the puzzle. The textiles and tools displayed craftsmanship far more advanced than that of local desert tribes of the same era. Even more puzzling were marine shells and coral fragments, found hundreds of kilometers from the ocean, hinting at either long-distance trade or seafaring capabilities far beyond what was once believed possible for early inhabitants of the Great Basin. Some researchers speculated that the Lovelock remains might belong to the last survivors of an ancient maritime civilization, wiped from history long before written records began. Others viewed them as evidence of a cultural anomaly, an isolated group with unique genetic and technological traits. The bones themselves added to the intrigue. Early reports described giant skeletons with femurs nearly a meter long, ribcages too broad for average humans, and skulls twice normal size, with heavy brow ridges and deep eye sockets that gave them a strangely inhuman look. Eyewitnesses swore that several skeletons stood over 7 feet tall. Many of these remains were reportedly sent to museums for study, though most later vanished from public record, feeding speculation that the evidence was hidden or lost. Whether myth or truth, the legend of Lovelock Cave persists, a story caught between archaeology and forbidden history. Some dismiss it as exaggeration. Others see in it a faint echo of a prehistoric truth, a people older, taller, and more mysterious than any we know. Today, Lovelock Cave remains eerily silent. The red cliffs still glow under the desert sun, and the wind still moans through its hollow depths. Whether giants once dwelled there or not, the place carries an unmistakable weight, as if the earth itself remembers something it refuses to reveal. Over time, the strange discoveries from Lovelock Cave seem to vanish from official records. Researchers who attempted to locate the original remains decades later found only scattered documentation and missing inventory logs. This unexplained disappearance fueled persistent rumors of a deliberate cover-up, accusations that the Smithsonian Institution had suppressed evidence that might challenge mainstream views of human evolution. Whether fact or fiction, this claim continues to divide archaeologists, historians, and truth-seekers alike. Excavations inside Lovelock Cave revealed evidence that seemed to echo the old Paiute legend. Layers of ash nearly 6 meters deep, mixed with burned bones and charcoal, suggested that the cave had once been engulfed by an enormous fire. Its blackened walls gave the impression of a vast cremation chamber. While this cannot prove that the Paiute tribes burned out the Sea-Takar, as their stories claim, the archaeological record mirrors their oral tradition with unsettling accuracy. By the mid-20th century, Lovelock Cave had become a flashpoint between archaeology and alternative history. Believers insisted it was once home to an advanced red-haired race wiped out by catastrophe or conflict. Mainstream researchers countered that the remains were simply those of ordinary ancient humans. Their hair turned red from chemical oxidation over time. Yet no DNA analysis of the mummies has ever been publicly released, and repeated requests for re-examination have met only silence. Deepening the mystery instead of resolving it, the greatest question still lingers: why did their hair remain vividly red for millennia? If oxidation were the only cause, countless other mummies worldwide should display the same hue, yet none do. Some scientists have proposed that these individuals possessed a rare molecular composition in their keratin, preserving pigment far longer than normal. Others suggest they carried genetic traits foreign to the region, possibly linked to ancient Eurasian populations. More speculative theories go further still, proposing that these so-called giants were the descendants of prehistoric seafarers, migrants who crossed oceans long before written history began, whether genetic anomaly or trace of a forgotten lineage. Their fiery hair endures as a defiant clue, a whisper from a people science cannot yet explain. Today, Lovelock Cave sits silent in the Nevada desert, its hollow depths filled with wind and shadow. In nearby museums, only fragments remain, strands of red hair sealed behind glass, woven fabrics and chipped stone tools. Most of the evidence, and perhaps the truth itself, has disappeared. To the Paiute people, the Sea-Takar were never myth but memory, a race of giants consumed by fire, leaving behind a mystery the modern world still hesitates to face. Hidden deep within the mist-covered hills of Jackson County, North Carolina, lies another relic of impossible age, Judaculla rock. At first glance, it seems an unremarkable slab of weathered stone cloaked in moss. But when sunlight touches its surface at just the right angle, it awakens, its face alive with over 1 to 500 carvings, spirals, hands, footprints, strange creatures, and tangled lines that form a message no one can read. Who carved these symbols? What story were they trying to tell? And how could a people thousands of years ago etch such intricate markings into solid rock, yet leave no trace of their language or tools? For centuries, scholars, shamans, and skeptics alike have stood before Judaculla rock, running their hands along its grooves, searching for meaning in a language that refuses to yield its secret. Some believe it's a map of the stars, others a portal between worlds. Whatever its purpose, the stone remembers something humanity has long forgotten. According to Cherokee legend, the carvings were made by Judaculla, a powerful supernatural giant who ruled the Smoky Mountains. He could stride across hills in a single step, and when he pressed his hand upon the ground, his immense strength left these impressions in stone. To the Cherokee, Judaculla rock is sacred ground, a place where the human and spirit worlds converge. Yet beneath the legend lies another mystery, one that science has yet to solve. When researchers first studied the rock using laser scanners and 3D imaging, they discovered far more than they expected. Over 1,500 distinct petroglyphs, forming patterns of astonishing complexity. Some eroded almost beyond sight, others crisp and deliberate. As if freshly carved by an unseen hand, the carvings stretch across the weathered expanse of Judaculla rock, forming the largest concentration of petroglyphs in eastern North America. Each incision seems deliberate, etched with remarkable precision into sandstone so hard that even modern tools would struggle to cut it. Some images resemble sun spirals, animal tracks, and human hands, while others form geometric lines, deep circular pits, and interwoven shapes that hint at an unseen order. Together, they seem to compose a story told without words, a cosmic map, a sacred code, or perhaps a record of something long forgotten. Yet despite decades of study, no one has ever deciphered a single symbol. Archaeologists have proposed that the carvings might mark celestial alignments, seasonal cycles, or ancient territorial boundaries. But the true meaning remains out of reach. What kind of tools could have carved such flawless grooves thousands of years ago? And what knowledge guided the hand that made them? Each line seems to echo the presence of a forgotten intelligence, a civilization capable of precision and purpose far beyond what recorded history dares to remember. Cherokee scholars agree that Judaculla rock predates their own people, possibly by 2,000 to 3,000 years or even more. This suggests that the carvers were not direct ancestors of modern Native Americans, but members of a vanished culture that once thrived in the Appalachian foothills. They left behind no cities, no written language, only this immense stone covered in mysterious symbols. Some call it a dead alphabet, others a sacred interface between the human and the divine. If it is indeed a message, what was it meant to say, and to whom? In the 20th century, a research team from the University of North Carolina attempted to analyze the carvings using linguistic and statistical methods similar to those applied to Egyptian hieroglyphs, hoping to find patterns of repetition or syntax. But Judaculla rock defied every effort. The symbols showed no consistent order, no linguistic rhythm. Many scholars now believe it is not a written language at all, but rather a ritual map, a sacred expression of cosmology created during ancient ceremonies that merged art, astronomy, and spirituality. Even more astonishing is how well the carvings have survived. Despite thousands of years of rainfall, frost, and erosion, the grooves remain remarkably sharp. Under ultraviolet light, new details emerge, hidden lines and overlapping figures invisible to the naked eye. Some carvings were discovered beneath layers of soil and moss, proving that the rock was used continuously over many generations. Judaculla rock may not be a single creation, but a chronicle of centuries, a living monument where symbols were renewed with each ritual season, marking the passage of time and the persistence of faith. Archaeologists have also found smaller carved stones scattered throughout the surrounding hills. arranged like satellites around a sacred center. This suggests that Judaculla rock may have served as a ceremonial hub, perhaps for offerings, rainmaking, or communion with celestial powers. The Cherokee still regard it as holy ground, protected by legend and taboo. Local stories warn that anyone who removes even a fragment of the rock will suffer misfortune, a belief that has, perhaps more effectively than any law, kept the site safe through the centuries. As scientific research deepens, the mystery only grows. Scholars from Europe have noted uncanny similarities between the spiral motifs of Judaculla rock and petroglyphs found in Ireland, Spain, and Turkey, where identical patterns appear on stones thousands of miles apart. Could these echoes across continents point to a universal symbolic language shared by early humans, or even to remnants of a forgotten global culture that predates recorded history? Some propose more speculative interpretations. The rock's intricate geometry and near mathematical precision have led fringe theorists to suggest it could represent a star map or an ancient blueprint, possibly of celestial or even extraterrestrial origin. While no evidence supports such claims, the carving's uncanny order and symmetry keep imagination alive, whether shaped by human hands or something beyond them. Judaculla rock reaches across time as a bridge between worlds, a monument to a mind that sought to connect the earth, the stars, and the spirit. Its power lies not in what it reveals, but in what it refuses to explain. In an era when science can measure almost everything, this stone remains a page that cannot be read, defying translation, inviting reverence. To scientists, it is a priceless artifact, an archive of human thought before history began. To the Cherokee, it is the soul of the land, the handprint of a divine being. And to dreamers, seekers, and poets, it is a whisper from prehistory, reminding us that the earth still holds mysteries older than memory itself, unknown and eternal. Judaculla rock stands as a reminder that mystery still breathes in our world. Its carvings are not messages for our time, but for eternity, words in stone meant to speak across millennia. On nights of the full moon, locals say the rock glows faintly, not bright but with a soft, silvery sheen, like dew catching moonlight. Some claim to hear distant drumming or whispers rising from the trees. Is it imagination, or the echo of Judaculla himself, speaking through wind, stone, and time? There in the quiet forests of North Carolina, shrouded in mist, Judaculla rock endures, a book of stone that no one has ever read. Each carving holds a buried story, each symbol a lost language. Until humanity learns to understand it, the rock will continue to stand in silence, one of America's deepest enigmas, and one of humankind's most haunting reminders that not every secret was meant to be solved. Far from the Appalachian Hills, along the banks of the Mississippi River near Alton, Illinois, another ancient mystery once loomed over the landscape. On a towering limestone cliff above the water, there existed a vast painting, a monstrous figure, part human, part beast, part dragon. The early French explorers called it Le Piasa, the man-eating bird, borrowing the name from the legends of the Illiniwek people. For centuries, this image stirred awe and fear. Yet what has baffled historians and archaeologists is not only its strange form, but the fact that the original painting has vanished completely, leaving behind only written accounts, sketches and whispers of what once was. In 1673, the French explorers Jacques Marquette and Louis Joliet, traveling down the Mississippi, recorded a sight unlike anything they had ever seen. On a high cliff, nearly inaccessible by hand, they saw two immense figures painted in vivid red, black, and green. Each creature stretched roughly 30 feet long and 12 feet high, with deer antlers, lion claws, fish scales, and enormous wings. Marquette wrote that the local tribes feared these beings deeply, saying they once flew through the valleys and devoured men. For the first time, the Piasa bird stepped from myth into history. According to Illiniwek legend, Piasa was once a great eagle, protector of the tribe. But pride corrupted it, and its hunger turned upon humanity. The people lived in terror until a warrior named Uatoga devised a plan. He lured the monster from the cliffs with poisoned arrows and struck it down, freeing his people. In memory of that battle, the tribe painted Piasa upon the rock, both as a memorial of victory and a warning that power, if misused, destroys even the divine. The creature's form defied logic, a human face crowned with antlers, a lion's body covered in scales, a serpent's tail, and vast feathered wings. It seemed to merge the sacred birds of the sky, the dragons of the east, and the feathered gods of Mesoamerica, like Quetzalcoatl, the serpent of creation. Many scholars believe the Piasa bird represented more than a monster. It symbolized the eternal balance between light and darkness, man and nature, spirit and chaos. But the mystery deepened when the painting itself disappeared. During the 1840s and 1850s, quarrying operations near Alton destroyed much of the limestone cliff. Some accounts say the image was obliterated by dynamite, the pigments blown into dust. Others claim the elements, wind, rain, and time, slowly erased it until nothing remained. Whatever the cause, by the late 19th century, the original Piasa bird was gone. All that survives are Marquette's sketches, written notes, and later attempts to recreate the image based on his words. Yet none can say for certain what the explorers truly saw. Did Marquette accurately record an ancient masterpiece? Or did he, influenced by indigenous legends and his own imagination, exaggerate what he witnessed on the cliff face? Some modern researchers believe the painting might not have been a literal creature at all, but a sacred emblem, a fusion of celestial and spiritual imagery used in Illiniwek ceremonies. Perhaps it represented a constellation or a spirit of transformation, its meaning lost when European eyes interpreted it through their own myths of dragons and demons. Whatever its origin, the Piasa bird remains one of America's most haunting legends, a creature suspended between myth and memory, its image erased, but its story immortal. The cliff may have crumbled, the colors may have faded, but the echo of the man-eating bird still lingers in the wind that sweeps over the Mississippi, a reminder that even when our monuments vanish, our mysteries endure, because the original painting has long vanished. Every interpretation of the Piasa bird remains speculation. From the late 19th century onward, countless artists and historians have tried to recreate the image described by explorers like Marquette. The most famous repainting appeared in 1924 on a nearby cliff overlooking the Mississippi River and has been restored several times since. Yet no two versions are alike. In some, Piasa bears a human face. In others, the head of a bird. Sometimes it has curling horns, other times the serpentine body of a dragon. No one can say which, if any, resembles the original. This uncertainty makes the Piasa bird one of America's strangest cultural symbols, a creature that exists in history but not in evidence. A kind of Schrödinger's painting, both real and gone, fact and legend at once. Its disappearance is more than an artistic mystery. It represents a deeper loss, the erasure of indigenous memory. When industrialization reached the Mississippi Valley, the cliff that bore the Piasa mural was quarried and destroyed. Along with it vanished the sacred landscape, the songs, and the rituals of the Illiniwek people. Some scholars believe the Piasa legend may reach back even further, rooted in prehistoric memory. Fossils of giant flying reptiles, pteranodons and Quetzalcoatlus, have been unearthed throughout Illinois, their wingspans stretching over 30 feet. Perhaps ancient people stumbled upon these remains and imagined them as the bones of a monstrous sky predator, weaving its image into oral tradition. Others view the Piasa bird as an expression of spiritual cosmology, embodying the dual forces of creation and destruction. Within Illiniwek mythology, the creature may have represented Manitou, the spirit that both gives and takes life, or the thunder god, or the wind spirit, symbols of divine power that govern the natural world. If so, the original painting was not mere decoration, but a sacred marker, a place of ceremony where prayers, offerings, or initiations took place. Yet because the true mural is lost, all of these theories remain hypotheses. There are no pigment samples, no surviving fragments, no photographs to date or authenticate it. Its meaning endures only through words, sketches, and the imagination of those who still ponder what once looked down upon the river. Today, visitors to Alton, Illinois, can see a modern reconstruction of the Piasa bird painted on the cliffs above the Mississippi. Though not authentic, it captures the same haunting spirit, its glowing eyes, wide wings, and fierce talons poised over the water. The new mural is a ghost of the legend, a symbol reborn to honor what was lost. Paradoxically, the destruction of the original only deepened the myth's allure. Had the painting survived, it might have become a museum relic. Instead, its absence turned it into a living mystery, a void into which imagination endlessly flows. In that void, we find longing for the past, for the unknown, for the sacred that time has taken away. Though the rock art itself is gone, its spirit endures in the culture of Alton. The city adopted the Piasa as its emblem, appearing on schools, sports teams, and even street signs. Locals call it the bird that will not die. The phrase holds both poetic and philosophical truth. Though erased from stone, the Piasa lives on in collective memory. On quiet moonlit nights along the Mississippi, some still claim to hear a cry echoing from the cliffs, a sound like wings unfurling in the dark. Whether it's wind, imagination, or something older, no one can say. The Piasa bird remains suspended between myth and history, its vanished image reminding us that what makes the past truly beautiful is not what survives, but what time has already taken away. Far to the east, amid the green hills of southern Ohio, another ancient enigma lies upon the earth, a vast earthen form, coiling across the landscape like a sleeping creature. Only from the sky does its full shape reveal itself, a massive serpent, 420 meters long, its body winding in 7 graceful curves, its open mouth poised to swallow a perfect circular mound. Some say it represents the sun, others the moon, or perhaps the earth itself. This is the Great Serpent Mound, one of the most profound and enduring mysteries of ancient America. The Great Serpent Mound is one of the greatest archaeological enigmas in North America, and perhaps the most sacred earthwork ever left by indigenous hands. From the ground, it appears as a modest ridge of soil, barely a meter high. But from above, from the eye of a bird or a god, its form reveals an astonishing perfection. Every curve flows in harmony, each coil balanced in proportion, as though the earth itself were shaped into a living rhythm. It feels less like construction and more like composition, a symphony of soil and stone offered to the heavens. When 19th century archaeologists first stumbled upon it, they were stunned. They called it the most mysterious effigy mound in North America. Unlike other burial mounds scattered across the Midwest, the Serpent Mound held no human remains. No pottery, no tools, nothing of daily life at all. Only earth, stones, and the unmistakable shape of a colossal serpent stretching nearly 420 meters across the Ohio hills. If you were to stand above it, seeing that vast snake coiling across the land, perfectly aligned with the path of the sun and moon, what would you believe it to be? A celestial calendar, a sacred message, a relic of a forgotten civilization. Modern technology has only deepened the mystery. Using satellite imagery and LiDAR scans, researchers discovered that the mound's alignment is far from random. Each curve corresponds to precise astronomical events. The serpent's open jaws face the exact point on the horizon where the sun sets on the summer solstice, while its coiled tail points to where the sun rises on the winter solstice. The undulating bends between them align with the equinoxes and with the moon's northernmost and southernmost risings during its 18.6-year cycle. This level of precision implies that the builders possessed a remarkably advanced understanding of astronomy, a mastery that rivals that of ancient observatories, like Stonehenge or the pyramids of Egypt. For many archaeologists, the Serpent Mound functioned as a sacred observatory, a living calendar uniting heaven and earth through art, geometry, and ceremony. But this revelation raises a deeper question: who built it? The earliest excavations in the 1800s uncovered artifacts associated with the Adena culture, which flourished between 1000 and 200 BCE. For decades, scholars credited the Adena as the mound's creators. They were known for their ceremonial earthworks and spiritual reverence for natural forces. In Adena symbolism, serpents represented rebirth, the sun, and the eternal cycle of life, fitting themes for such a monumental form. From this view, the Great Serpent Mound was a cosmic sanctuary, a meeting place between the human world and the divine. But in the 1990s, new radiocarbon testing changed everything. Charcoal found within the mound dated to around 1070 CE, nearly 1300 years later than the Adena period. That date matched the era of the Fort Ancient culture, another indigenous group who lived in Ohio and maintained trade links with the great Mississippian cities such as Cahokia. So which was the true builder, the Adena, the Fort Ancient, or perhaps both? Supporters of the Adena theory point to nearby burial mounds that clearly belonged to their timeline, suggesting the serpent was part of a larger Adena ceremonial complex. Yet no pottery, tools, or village remains confirm that connection. Those who favor the Fort Ancient theory note that 1070 CE coincides with the appearance of Halley's Comet over North America. They propose that the serpent swallowing a circular object might symbolize this fiery, celestial visitor, or perhaps the sun or moon during an eclipse. In that interpretation, the mound was rebuilt or restored as a cosmic monument to a once-in-a-lifetime event. Still, both explanations remain incomplete. Some archaeologists believe the Fort Ancient people may have inherited a much older structure, preserving or reshaping it to match their own cosmology. Others, more speculative, argue that the Serpent Mound predates both cultures, that it was created by a forgotten civilization, one that possessed knowledge of astronomy and geometry far beyond what is recognized in prehistoric North America. Whatever its origin, the Great Serpent Mound endures as a testament to ancient genius. Its sweeping form still aligns flawlessly with the sun, moon, and stars, as it has for more than 1,000 years, perhaps longer. To stand upon its coils at dawn or dusk is to feel time itself bend, to sense that the earth remembers something we have forgotten. The serpent lies silent beneath the sky, watching the celestial dance it was built to honor, a riddle in the shape of eternity. According to one compelling theory, the Great Serpent Mound may be a relic from a much earlier epoch, 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, just after the last ice age, when cataclysmic floods and cosmic impacts reshaped the face of the earth. Supporters of this view note that the mound lies atop an ancient meteor impact crater, estimated to be 300 million years old. Perhaps its builders recognized this scarred land as sacred, a place where the heavens had once touched the earth, and chose it intentionally as a site of power. In that sense, the mound may not have been merely a shrine or observatory, but a message in soil, a monument of remembrance and warning about humanity's fragile place beneath the vastness of the cosmos. Across cultures and continents, the serpent has always been a symbol of wisdom, rebirth, and eternity. In Mesoamerica, it was Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, who created the world. In ancient Egypt, it embodied the sun's endless journey across the sky. In Hinduism, Naga guarded the waters and the underworld. To the builders of the Serpent Mound, perhaps the winding coils were more than decoration. They were a language of the earth itself, each curve reflecting the planet's pulse, its magnetic and spiritual flow. Through this sacred geometry, they expressed the eternal truth that all life rises from the soil, is sustained by it, and returns to it. The Great Serpent Mound endures as a living hymn to harmony between humankind and the universe, a song of earth and sky still echoing through the ages. Today, the Serpent Mound is a U.S. National Historic Landmark, protected and revered not only by archaeologists but also by indigenous communities who view it as sacred ground. Excavations continue to uncover new clues, layers of charcoal, traces of reshaping, and fragments of ceremonial tools, but the true identity of its builders remains unknown. Did they vanish into time, leaving behind this sleeping serpent as the last witness to their wisdom? Or have we simply forgotten the language our ancestors once shared with the earth and the stars? Long before the skyscrapers of St. Louis reached toward the sky, the fertile floodplains of the Mississippi River cradled another wonder, an ancient metropolis so vast and intricate it defies imagination. Beneath layers of soil and silence once stood Cahokia, the beating heart of a forgotten civilization that rose not from stone or steel, but from earth itself. They left no writing, no metal, no wheels, yet they built monumental mounds that aligned with the movements of the heavens. For centuries this city thrived, a world of ceremony, astronomy, and power, until mysteriously it was abandoned. Today, only the whispering wind over grassy hills remains, carrying the faint echo of America's first great city. Over 1,000 years ago, while Europe was still in its medieval dawn, the Cahokians constructed an urban center of breathtaking scale and sophistication. With a population of more than 20,000, it was once the largest city in North America, surpassing even London at the same time. From the Mississippi's banks stretched a vast network of earthen roads, canals, neighborhoods, and ceremonial plazas. Without metal tools, without writing, and without the wheel, they created a landscape so precise and harmonious that modern archaeologists still struggle to comprehend its planning. At its center rose Monk's Mound, a colossal earthen pyramid, nearly 30 meters high and 300 meters long. Composed of millions of cubic meters of soil carried by hand, basket by basket, over decades. Layer upon layer of packed earth formed a sacred mountain. At its summit, archaeologists believe stood a temple or palace, a place of governance and ritual where rulers presided over both spiritual and political life. From a distance, Cahokia would have appeared like a city of earth and light, a sacred capital shimmering with devotion and power. To the west of the main city, researchers discovered an enormous circular monument made of wooden posts, known today as Cahokia's Woodhenge. Far more than a simple ring of timbers, this was a solar observatory aligned with astonishing precision. Each post marked the rising and setting points of the sun during solstices and equinoxes. From this circle, priest astronomers could track the heavens, measure time, and guide the rhythm of agriculture and ceremony. At dawn on the summer solstice, the first beam of sunlight would pierce through a single alignment post and fall perfectly upon the summit of Monk's Mound, a breathtaking union of sky, earth, and human intention. It was proof that 1,000 years before telescopes and clocks, the people of Cahokia already understood how to measure the heartbeat of the cosmos. It was a breathtaking moment, the instant when Cahokia seemed to awaken with the pulse of the cosmos, when the rising sun aligned perfectly with Monk's Mound, and the entire city moved in rhythm with the heavens. Earth, sky, and spirit united in a single heartbeat. Yet behind that harmony lay shadows, stories of power, faith, and sacrifice that reveal a civilization as complex as any in the ancient world. In Mount 72, one of Cahokia's most sacred and unsettling sites, archaeologists uncovered over 250 human skeletons. Many were young women, buried together in layers, some likely sacrificial victims. At the center rested a male ruler, entombed on a bed of shells arranged in the shape of a falcon, a symbol of divinity and rebirth. Around him lay treasures of copper, mica, pearls, and gemstones, objects that shimmered with sacred meaning. The scene evoked echoes of Mesoamerican rituals, the blood offerings of the Maya and Aztec, but here it unfolded in the heart of the American Midwest. It revealed a society deeply spiritual, stratified, and far more sophisticated than history once allowed. Cahokia was not an isolated wonder. Artifacts tell of a vast trade network that spanned the continent: seashells from the Gulf of Mexico, obsidian from the Rocky Mountains, copper from the Great Lakes, and stone from the Appalachians. Through these exchanges flowed not only goods, but ideas, symbols, and beliefs, linking distant peoples in a shared spiritual geography. For more than 3 centuries, Cahokia shone like a star of civilization, a sacred city where religion, science, and governance were one. And then, silence. Around 1350 CE, the city was abandoned. No signs of war, no epidemic, no invasion. The streets emptied, the temples crumbled, and the mounds were swallowed by grass. Within a few generations, America's first great metropolis vanished, leaving behind only earthen monuments and an echo of its former grandeur. Modern researchers have long searched for answers. One of the strongest theories points to climate catastrophe. Sediment layers reveal that during the 14th century, the Mississippi Valley endured violent environmental swings, devastating floods followed by crushing droughts. Fields were buried under silt one year and cracked open the next. The maize crops, lifeblood of Cahokia, failed repeatedly. Famine and displacement followed. Yet this explanation alone cannot account for the complete disappearance of such a sophisticated society. Other civilizations survived similar hardships. Cahokia did not. Perhaps nature's fury was only the spark that ignited a deeper unraveling. As the city's population swelled, its farmlands were overworked, and its forests stripped bare for construction. Soil erosion, scarcity, and pollution weakened its foundation. Archaeologists have found signs of halted construction projects, unfinished mounds, and neighborhoods left abruptly empty. The ruling elite may have lost control, faith fractured, and order dissolved. Even hastily built palisade walls hint at unrest, perhaps rebellion within. Cahokia, it seems, may have fallen not from external conquest, but from the weight of its own complexity. Yet for some, the explanation lies not in science, but in spirit. Indigenous oral traditions among the Potawatomi, Osage, and other descendant peoples tell a different story, that the people of Cahokia left deliberately. When harmony with nature and the spirits of the land was broken, they chose to abandon the city to restore balance. In these traditions, Cahokia was not destroyed. It was released, offered back to the earth it had risen from. Today, the Cahokia Mounds State Historic Site stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Treasure, preserving what little remains of this once great city. Yet much of it lies buried beneath modern St. Louis, hidden beneath neighborhoods, highways, and factories. Beneath the hum of modern life, thousands of unseen mounds still sleep, waiting for rediscovery. Cahokia's silence is not empty, it is a mirror. It reflects both the brilliance and fragility of human civilization. 1,000 years ago, its people built a world in perfect balance between earth and sky, and when that balance was lost, their world crumbled into dust. The lessons of Cahokia linger in its quiet hills. No city, no empire. No culture endures if it forgets its harmony with the land. The mounds still rise against the horizon. Covered in grass and shadow, whispering across the centuries, we built our world from the earth. And the earth took it back. Once thriving, organized, and intelligent, Cahokia collapsed within just a few centuries as its environment shifted and balance was lost. Its story is not merely one of history, it is a warning. When the sun rises over the Mississippi plains, its light still strikes the summit of Monk's Mound, and it feels as though time itself whispers a universal truth. Every civilization, no matter how great, can vanish into silence. Far to the west, high above the sun-scorched sands of California's Colorado Desert, colossal figures stretch across the barren earth, so vast they can only be truly seen from the sky. Human shapes with outstretched arms, serpents winding through the dust, spirals echoing the movement of the sun. These are the blithe intaglios, giant geoglyphs carved into the desert floor. their purpose and origin still shrouded in mystery, formed not with machines, but with bare hands and stones. They stand as messages written into the land itself, silent beneath centuries of wind and sunlight. No tools, no nearby settlements, no inscriptions, only these immense designs etched into the earth. Who made them? What did they mean? And most haunting of all, when? Unlike most ancient wonders, the blithe intaglios belong to no certain age. They have no inscriptions, no datable artifacts, no cultural footprint. They are the whispers of a civilization lost in time, a message left by people whose story has vanished from history's record. The world first learned of them in 1932, when pilot George Palmer spotted their immense shapes from the air during an aerial survey. Below his plane, stretched across the desert, were human figures over 160 feet long, arms extended as if in greeting to the heavens. Nearby lay outlines of animals, horses, snakes, perhaps mountain lions, and a mysterious spiral possibly representing the sun, or a cosmic vortex. What struck Palmer, and later archaeologists, was that these geoglyphs are invisible from the ground. Their full beauty and scale only reveal themselves from above. This simple fact sparked an enduring mystery. How could an ancient people with no knowledge of flight create artwork meant to be seen from the sky? Closer study revealed that the intaglios were not random or rough sketches. Each line and curve was crafted with geometric precision, the proportions so consistent that even with modern instruments, it would be difficult to improve upon them. The method was ingenious in its simplicity. By removing the dark, oxidized layer of desert rock, the artists exposed the lighter sand beneath, creating high-contrast designs that have endured for millennia. From nearby ridges, one can still see the perfect symmetry of these massive forms, proof of a mathematical and artistic mastery that defies expectation. This precision raises profound questions. Did the creators possess advanced knowledge of geometry or astronomy, using the stars as guides? Or were they visionaries whose intuitive sense of balance and spatial awareness allowed them to craft cosmic art with nothing but instinct and patience? The true origin of the blithe intaglios remains unknown. Some archaeologists believe they were created between 450 and 2,000 years ago by the Mojave or Quechan, Yuma peoples, who lived along the Colorado River. Their oral traditions speak of Mutavilya, the creator god who formed the world and taught humans how to live in harmony with it. The giant human figures, according to this view, depict Mutavilya and were part of sacred desert ceremonies held to honor him. But dating the geoglyphs has proven almost impossible. The desert yields no organic material for carbon testing, and the oxidation of surface rocks provides only vague clues. The hyper-arid environment has preserved the lines too well, erasing the very passage of time that might have revealed their age. As a result, some researchers propose a far older origin, perhaps 10,000 years ago. At the end of the last ice age, they point to erosion patterns, weathering depth, and subtle desert varnish that suggest the lines have endured far longer than previously thought. If true, the blithe intaglios may not belong to any known tribe at all, but to a forgotten culture that flourished before history began, whether sacred art, astronomical markers, or messages meant for the gods above. The blithe intaglios remain one of North America's most profound enigmas, a reminder that long before cities and machines, ancient hands were already writing on the canvas of the earth itself. Weathered and sun-bleached, the blithe intaglios lie etched into the desert floor, stones deeply settled, lines faint yet enduring. Their surfaces suggest not centuries, but millennia of age. If true, these geoglyphs may be among the oldest human-made monuments in North America, standing as silent contemporaries of the pyramids of Egypt and the ziggurats of Mesopotamia. Yet what baffles researchers most is not their scale or artistry, but their isolation. Around them, there are no dwellings, no tools, no bones, no trace of the people who made them. Only the vast figures stretch across the barren earth, as if their creators emerged from the desert, shaped their message, and vanished back into the sands without a sound. This absence of evidence has led some scholars to wonder whether the blithe intaglios belong not just to an undated past, but to a timeline outside of known history, a memory of a world that predates our written record. Over the past century, countless theories have tried to explain their existence. Yet every idea feels like a fragment of a puzzle missing its heart. The most widely accepted interpretation attributes the intaglios to the Mojave or Quechan, Yuma, peoples, created around 900 to 1,000 years ago. According to tribal tradition, the towering human figures may represent Mutavilla, the creator god who formed the world and taught humanity how to live in harmony with it. The carvings, from this view, were sacred, ritual effigies meant to honor divine beings or mark ceremonial sites. But even this explanation falters before the evidence. How could artwork so exposed to the elements survive intact for nearly a millennium? The desert's relentless winds, scorching heat, and the erosion of time should have long erased them. And yet they remain clear, symmetrical, almost defiant. A more daring theory suggests the intaglios were not the work of known tribes at all, but remnants of a forgotten prehistoric civilization, a culture that thrived long before the end of the last ice age. In this view, the figures were not mere art, but astronomical maps or energetic diagrams, part of a vast global network of ancient geoglyphs stretching across the planet, from the Nazca lines of Peru to the Chaco Canyon spirals of New Mexico and the linear stone formations of Australia. Together, these sites might have expressed a shared understanding of cosmic order, a universal language written upon the earth. And then there is the most controversial theory of all, that the blithe intaglios were created as messages to the heavens. From the ground they are barely discernible. Only from the air can their full forms be seen. Could it be that their makers believed divine beings or visitors from the sky would gaze upon them from above? Perhaps these colossal shapes were not meant for human eyes at all, but as prayers or signals to celestial watchers, a way for ancient humanity to reach across the void towards something greater than themselves. Whatever their purpose, it is the Colorado Desert itself that has preserved these geoglyphs in such uncanny condition. Its arid climate, minimal rainfall, and gentle winds have halted erosion for thousands of years. Time here moves differently, so slowly it seems to stand still. Geologists call the landscape a time trap, where change is so rare that the past and present coexist upon the same unbroken surface. It is this stillness that makes the intaglios both eternal and unknowable. Without geological change, time leaves no trace. Today, the blithe intaglios are fenced and protected, watched over by archaeologists and tribal caretakers. Visitors can view them from above, guided by signs that explain their possible origins. Yet even with drones, LiDAR scans, and satellite imaging, their true age and purpose remain unresolved. No one knows who carved them, how old they truly are, or what message they were meant to convey. Perhaps they are more than art. Perhaps they are echoes of humanity's oldest question, our yearning to connect heaven and earth. In Mojave tradition, these figures are said to be the footprints of gods, impressions left when divine beings once walked upon the world. To the Quechan people, they represent ancestral spirits, guiding souls back to the afterlife. Whether myth or memory, both speak to a truth deeper than history, that time is not a straight line, but a circle, ever turning, ever returning. And so, in an age when humanity can measure the age of stars and send machines to other planets, we still cannot determine the age of a few simple carvings upon our own soil. The blithe intaglios remain silent beneath the desert sun, their meaning locked in stone, a quiet challenge to human certainty. Perhaps the earth keeps its greatest secrets deliberately, reminding us that we are only a brief chapter in an endless book, written by hands long vanished, beneath a sky that never forgets.